Hi, everybody. This is Caitlin Albright, the Everson's Education Coordinator, here with our graphic designer, Ariana Dibble, today. Hi, Ariana. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for sitting down to speak with us today. I'd love to get started by having you introduce yourself and sharing a little bit about your background and your education.
Sure. So I went to Alfred University for my bachelor's degree, and I majored in marketing and minored in interdisciplinary art. And also, while I was at Alfred, I had the opportunity to study marketing abroad in Winchester, England, at the University of Winchester. And then after I graduated Alfred, I was lucky enough to get a part-time job at the Rockwell Museum in Corning, New York. And I was there for about little over a year, and I worked as a guest services associate. And then for about the last 6 months I was there, I was able to do some marketing help. So that allowed me to kind of hone in on my graphic design skills. I was able to help make some flyers, some education postcards, and then I also was able to make some signs for the gift store. So I think that really helped me in my current position. And then after the Rockwell, I was fortunate enough to come to the Everson, and I have now been here for a little over a year. So,
So, were you always interested in art growing up, or how did that interest get started for you?
sure. So, I think I've always been interested in art. Art class was always my favorite subject growing up. And in like middle school, high school, when you're actually able to start picking what classes you want in your free periods, I'd always choose art class. And I've always been interested in drawing, and then my big passion is photography, and I've been doing that since I was little, and I still do that now in adulthood. Um, and then in college, I knew like I knew I wanted to do something in art, but I knew I didn't want it to be my main focus, kind of more of a like a side passion. So that's why I chose to do that as my minor. And I've always like loved advertising, and I think that's kind of where I got my love for graphic design and just like looking at different ways to reach people and cool ways of advertisement. So I think it's always been in my life.
That's really interesting. And you mentioned before that you were at the Rockwell for a while. Now, did you do internships while you were in college or just out of college? What kind of experience did you have in preparing for the art world in terms of what you do now?
Sure. So I did have one internship, and it was, I think, that between my junior and senior year. So it was in the summer. It's about 2 months long, and it was for a nonprofit. So that kind of gave me an insight as to what it would be like working in a nonprofit where many people wear many hats and everyone kind of does everything. And so that was a marketing internship. Same marketing, but it was really more graphic design. I helped to rebrand their brochures, their posters, and then my main project there was working on their annual appeal, trying to rebrand it and shorten it because it was, I think, like 80 pages long, and I needed it to be under 20 and actually like visually pleasing. So that allowed me to really kind of gain some graphic design skills, and it also allowed me to be able to use what I have. So they didn't have the Adobe Suite, so I had to do all of my designing through Publisher, which is challenging. Like if you know design and you've used like InDesign compared to Publisher, Publisher has it's not as user friendly, and it has a lot less creative ways. I guess you can't do as much with it, and so it really allowed me to just use what I had. So I think that's a good skill to know.
Definitely. So tell us a little bit more about what your job is like at the Everson. What exactly are your responsibilities as the museum's graphic designer?
Yeah. So I would say my main responsibilities are making any and all of the print and digital material. So any of the exhibition postcards that you get in the mail, or any posters you see in the museum or out in the public, any brochures, and then I also do digital ads or ads for magazines as well, like Syracuse Parent and Syracuse Women's Magazine. And then 3 times a year, I have to work on the Everson Bulletin. So that's kind of a big role. And then I also have the ability to do exhibition catalogs, which is one of my favorite parts. And then I also help out doing the exhibition wall text that you see on the wall. So I get to use a vinyl cutter, and that's something I never thought I would do. So it's fun. So that's usually my day-to-day, always using the Adobe suite. My main programs are InDesign and Photoshop. And yeah, it's kind of what I do.
So basically any and all visual communications or communicating things in a way that's aesthetically pleasing and easy for people to read and understand.
Yes.
And for anybody listening in who is maybe hearing us laugh about the bulletin, that is a massive undertaking, just so anybody, so we're all clear on that. It is a huge project, and it takes up most of your day for quite a while when you're in the process of that.
Yeah, probably like 2 to 3 weeks. And that's putting it together and getting it approved, and then printer and everything.
It's not like you're working on that only by yourself. You have to submit things to other people, get approval, go back and re-edit, and it's a very intensive process from what I've learned just by watching you work.
Yes, it is. I would agree with that.
So what are your favorite aspects of your job?
So I would say, I mean, my favorite part of my job is getting the physical thing in my hands. So I would say the bulletin and then any of the exhibition catalogs I've worked on, it's just like a really big sense of achievement. You get to see this beautiful piece that you created, and it's just very pleasing. So I'd say that's probably my favorite part of my job.
Great. That is really satisfying when you see your work come back to you and it's all shiny and finished.
Right. You're just like, wow, I made this. And then sometimes your name gets to be on it. So
that's exciting.
Yeah.
Now, aside from the bulletin, what do you think is some of the most challenging aspects of what you do?
I would say definitely the most challenging aspect is when someone comes to me and they don't have any clue what they want.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll say like, oh, I need a poster, but I don't know what I want on it. I don't know what wording I want. I don't know what I want in the pictures. Help me. And so, and that's challenging because obviously I can't read minds. But usually to get through that, you just kind of have to ask them basic questions, try to narrow it down what they want. And what I've learned is helpful is creating a rough draft just so they can have a visual thing in front of them, and then that usually helps them decide like, oh, I actually want this wording, or don't use that picture, I want this picture. So that usually helps, but that's definitely challenging. And I think you're going to have that anywhere in graphic design. So
what kinds of skills and experience do you think anybody going into graphic design would need to have?
So I think you should definitely have a good understanding of Illustrator, InDesign, and Photoshop. I mean, those are the 3 main Adobe programs that I use every day. And then I think it's also good to have some knowledge in Premiere Pro, so that's the video editing. And then definitely being able to have a basic understanding of website design or just basic coding skills I found to be very useful. And I know those are kind of hard to find because a lot of, like Alfred University doesn't offer coding classes. So I was fortunate enough to be able to learn basic coding when I was actually in England because they offered that. But I'm sure there's also online classes or just free online programs that you can use to learn web skills. And then just overall, I think you need to have a creative mindset, just have a good eye for design. And then I'd say you definitely have to be able to accept and work off of constructive criticism. I think that's like a big part of it.
There's definitely a lot of that, especially when so many eyes are looking at what you're producing and everybody's going to have a different take on it. I could see that being a very helpful skill to have.
Yes, you can't take everything personally. You have to just learn and go with it. And you also have to be able to make your own decisions. So if someone offers you like advice and it's not necessarily going to make say it's an ad, it's not going to make it the most visually pleasing, you also have to be able to kind of come back and say, well, I don't really think that's going to be this, but maybe try this instead. So you just kind of have to come at it.
Great. And what advice could you share with anybody who might be interested in going into a career in graphic design?
Sure. So I would say if you know you want to do it and you are going into school, I'd definitely say try to find a college that has a program in it. Um, I didn't know I wanted to do it really at all in college, so I wasn't able to have that as my major.
A lot of
So I
people's
would say
skills were
definitely.
self-taught, weren't they?
What'd you say?
I'm sorry, a lot of your skills you self-taught, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I only had I took like a Photoshop class in high school, but then otherwise I just learned everything on my own just because I was interested in it. And it's very easy to do. I know that I was able to find, well, it's not a knockoff, but I guess it's like the basic version of the Adobe suite. So I had Photoshop growing up at least that I was able to practice on. And that actually brings up a good point because a lot of colleges have um, computer labs where they at least have a couple computers that have the Adobe Suite downloaded onto it. So I would say if you can find a computer, take advantage of that and practice. And then once again, there is online courses that you can take.
Mhm.
So I would say definitely practice if you know you want to do it. If you have an interest, just find any way you can, take as many art classes as you can. Just like ignite your creativity, I guess. Mhm.
That's great advice, though. I think being motivated and disciplined enough too to be able to sit down and really teach yourself that with a minimal amount of guidance, and then use the other skills that you actually do have a background in education in. That's a really impressive way that you got into this field, and I really appreciate all of your feedback and advice that you're able to share with us today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much for chatting with us, and hope to see you again at the museum soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.